Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this, then, round number one in the CRC, the Colander Racing Competizione, and this, of course, the first round at Silverstone. Now, my name is Daniel Gilligan, and alongside me in the virtual commentary box this evening will be John Scott. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolute wonderful today. It's a wonderful day today. We are, of course, going to look at one of the most famous track in Formula One calendar.
Absolutely, yes. Now I am getting just a little bit of feedback. There we go, I've found it there. I had our stream open in another window. I was hearing double of myself. That's not good at all. It's not something that you want to hear at all, especially not my voice, but there we go. So we've got almost a full grid of cars here today. We've got F1 Ellie, of course, in the lobby at the moment in the Red Bull. We've then got their teammate Victorious. And then in terms of the other driver lineups that we see here today, it seems that we're missing one Aston Martin and one Mercedes. The rest of the field, all present and correct. We've got some messages in the chat here saying, good luck, everyone, from Squish666. Thank you very much, Squish. I'm sure that all the drivers will be needing some luck today. You know, first round of the season, people have got to get that rust off from maybe not having raced for a little while or something like that. But Silverstone, of course, a circuit where there is fantastic racing almost every single time that you go here, either in the virtual or the real world. So we're just waiting for the first cars to come out on circuit. As is, at the moment, we've got none of them. We've been going for nearly a whole minute, and everybody is still in the pit lane. Everybody's still just sort of lurking and waiting and seeing what's going to happen. What do you reckon to that then, John?
I think there might be some last-minute tweak on their setup or something like that. I don't know.
It's certainly suspect because whilst setup changes are something that we are everybody is aware of, that this is something that is done by people in anticipation of a qualifying session. Of course, you've got Parc Ferme. For those of you who don't know, that basically means as soon as you leave the garage at the start of qualifying, you are then locked into your setup for the rest of the race weekend. So it is important to get the right setup, but I suspect that we may be having a small technical problem here because we're now nearly 2 minutes into the session and not a single car has come out of the garage just yet.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a quick look at what's happening. And yeah, it looks like we've maybe got one driver who's not actually loaded in, but everybody else has. So it might be that we're going to re-lobby in just a few moments' time here, and we'll take a look at what's going on and try and bring you the best entertainment that we can. But in terms of this, then, in terms of Silverstone, as a circuit, it's a mixture of high and low downforce. It's got a bit of everything, really. You've got slow corners, medium speed, high speed. You've got great big long straights as well, and then, of course, ever since 2010, 2011, we've been running on the brand new modern layout. Well, I say brand new; it was brand new at the time, but these days it's the now new accustomed Grand Prix layout and format. So you will start the lap going down the Hamilton Straight, named, of course, after Lewis Hamilton, the greatest British F1 driver in terms of statistics and in terms of an awful lot of us. We think he's the greatest ever. Some people might disagree with us, but that's not a debate for right now. And then you head through Abbey, the right-hand kink, before then going through Farm. It's a left-hander, quite long, but not something that is going to pose too much of a challenge to any of the drivers in the lobby today. And then you've got your first proper heavy braking moment and really first overtaking opportunity in Village, the right-hander that then leads you up to the loop, which can then potentially give you the opportunity to counter-attack to anybody that is overtaking you in Village. And then, of course, Aintree, which again, a line that's a one-line corner, really. Something which you're not likely to see too much in the way of battling there. It can happen, but through there it tends to be just the one line to get the most efficient run. And there we go. We're now seeing cars emerging onto the circuit. So there we go. We've got a couple of cars then on their outlaps now. Dill in the Aston Martin is the first one to emerge and get pounding round. So we will keep an eye on their progress and keep you abreast of everything that's going on there. There we are then. So, John, it took us a few minutes there. The timer's now reset, but we are going now.
We are, and it's nice to see them actually going out. It's been a while since we had people driving. We had this tiny summer break here, pretty much, to refresh ourselves and hop into this new game.
Absolutely, yes, we did. And whilst F1's summer break is now underway, as well, it will be as of tomorrow at least, the world all hots up in terms of sim racing. We've got, of course, this league, plenty of other leagues as well out there that have recently started their seasons, and therefore, you know, it's that quieter period in the F1 calendar where we can then start to see some more interesting things happening off the circuit, including, of course, all the saga and potential trauma, I suppose, for anybody in the Alpine team after all of the shambles that have been going on with their driver lineup for next year. Originally, of course, they thought it was going to be Fernando Alonso. Then he said no, going to this team that we can see on board with at the moment, the Aston Martin. And then, of course, they thought, well, Oscar Piastri is going to be the next one in. Now that's looking unlikely as well. Otmar Zafnauer has even come out and said, oh, I expected more loyalty from him. But there we are. That's our little bit of F1 chat. But now we finally got a car on a hot lap. So let's go through it then. Dill goes down the Hamilton Straight into Abbey. And let's see the line that they take through here then. It's a good one. And they don't extend over track limits or anything like that. And then into the right-hander of Village. And then up through the loop. And a little bit wide of the apex there, it looked like from the off-board cameras. A little bit deceiving, though, given the side we're on. And then headed down the Wellington Straight, we go towards Brooklands, Luffield and Woodcut. Some corners which, again, provide some absolutely fantastic opportunities for overtaking in the race. And here in qualifying, gives us a bit of a spectacle as well. You can see here taking that sort of V-shaped line through Luffield. So try and maximise the exit speed in the Aston Martin, taking a little bit of the grass there on the inside as well, before we then head down towards the mighty Cops Corner. Taking that corner then, there's a tiny bit of a lift there before they then go back flat down on the throttle and then into Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. So it's through the left, then the right, then another left, another right, and then one final left, which is Chapel, which then leads us onto the Hangar Straight. Hangar Straight, of course, because all the way back when, Silverstone was an RAF base, and so therefore you had runways and all sorts of other things going on down here, and hangars to keep the planes in. So, through then Stowe Corner, big long right-hander here, with then the opportunity to go off of the circuit and get the track limits warnings and violations, but no such problems this time, it looks like, for Dill. They come round the final turn then, and across the line, what is their first time of the day? That looks to be, to me, a 1:27 or so, but I'm actually struggling to see the numbers there. It's a little bitty pixelated on my screen, so I hope that I got that right. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did. It's 1:27.5 to be more exact. And it was a wonderful time set. It's the first lap around here, so of course it's not going to be too much. Track is still a bit cold for now, as Lixon is going for 1:28, 1:34 by Vic. So right now it is Dill who's setting the fastest time of the first people.
Yeah, and it's looking a good effort from them so far. 1:27.5, that's nearly a second faster than second place at the moment, that being Lixon, who's down in P2 in the McLaren. Across the line comes Icy Radon, though, and they jump up the order, not quite all the way up to where Dill is at the moment in that Aston, but a 1:29.7 puts them very much in the mix with those cars just 2 places ahead of them, or at least with 1 place ahead of them. They're only a 10th ahead. But then Lixon, of course, in the 28th, the low 28th, so there's a little bit of a gulf appearing amongst certain drivers in the field.
Yeah.
But here we are then. So we're now on board with Yoshi Boy, who's in their Alpine. And they come through the last couple of corners now, then try and open up the second to last corner as much as possible before then getting the power down and powering through the last couple of corners then. So onto this lap, we will watch on board. And seems like there was lobby connection trouble.
Yeah.
And so, oh dear, big old slide there, being a bit too greedy on the curb on the inside there of Farm. And, well, that's what happens. It will bite you, this game. If you're a little bit too liberal with your use of the curbs, or even with the use of the grass on the far side of those curbs, then there we go. Then we have that bit of a half spin there, and away they go.
Yeah. So right now it's pretty much half of the driver that has put down the time, and there is not much to say at the moment from the bottom people, other than they could have spun to the track.
They certainly could. Yeah, there could be a great big incident that may well have happened that we may have just not been able to see. I reckon if we pop on the track map, we might be able to then have another little bit of a look in terms of what's going on around the circuit there. And then in terms of so there we go. We've got the vast majority of cars on circuit at the moment, and hopefully all setting some good times as well, some good competitive times. So the likes of Yoshi Boy on a lap at the moment, same with Chleb, then Croker as well, and then everybody else is either in the pits or has already set a lap time. We've then got, there we are then, there's Michael on their out lap at the moment, F1 Ellie still in the pits at the moment, but hopefully we will see them out on circuit relatively soon. If not, it's going to be a last to first challenge for Ellie. But there we go then, Michael coming round Luffield here, and going slow, getting out the way of the Williams that then comes past them there. That could well be Croker. No, it's not. Croker's just crossed the line and done a 1:28.8. Meanwhile, up at the top end of the field, it should be pointed out that Brent has been able to set themselves a 1:28.3, and that's popped them up into second place at the moment. Who's the other commentator? That is John. That is John Scott, who is not just the other commentator in the virtual commentary box with me today, but that is also our virtual director. So John doing all of the wonderful things that make it so you can see what is going on screen at the moment.
Right now, it's pretty much nothing's happened other than Michael actually trying to go in here, and he's gonna put out the lap. At the moment, F1L is still in the pit. Yoshi Boy is in the pit. Looks like there was some Ferrari that went out, I think. But now we're gonna watch Michael.
So around the... Absolutely, they will, yeah. So through turn number one then, a little bit of a lift going through there it looks like, and then they've got now the car just on their outside. That's a Haas just keeping over to one side as they come out the pit lane, not getting in the way of the Alpine at all. But they're going to have to be careful here, though, because the Alpine is on a lap, and this Haas is now wandering around in their mirrors. Oh, no, and now he's bailed out the lap. So Michael's only just started their lap, and then they've decided, nope, that's it. That's the end of it. So there we go.
Looks like there's a lot of traffic here.
Yeah, lots of traffic on the circuit at the moment, particularly around that area of Luffield. And we've got then, you can see there, we've got Rolfie here currently in their outlap, so they're not really pushing at this stage. They're just going to be trying to get their tyres up to the temperature and so on. But away we go then. And Victorious is then on a lap at the moment. The Red Bull driver starting their lap. And then let's see if this one lasts a little bit longer than we saw with Michael earlier on. So they come through the first sector then, through the loop now, and we've got cars diving out the way left, right and centre really. Dill seems fairly untroubled out in the lead at the moment, but they have now come back out onto the circuit to go after a second time. You can see them on the timing tower there, having gone on their outlap. And then through Brooklands we go, and we've maybe just been a little bit wider of the apex than they would have liked there, but then headed through Luffield. Again, just a little bit wide. If you take that sort of that wider angle there, you want to then be able to cut back on yourself and go for that V-shaped line to then maximise your speed on exit. Yeah, absolutely you do. So here we go then through Cops, and they've done well to not invalidate their lap there. You'd see the entire track map go red if they had done so, but despite all four wheels off the circuit there, they've not lost this lap so far. And then, oh crikey, there we go, all the way off the circuit again, and again, it's not invalidating their lap. So maybe they lifted, maybe they've lost sufficient time going over the grass there. Through Brooklands we go, not Brooklands, sorry, Stowe we go. And again, wide and off of the track there for Victorious. Coming through then the last couple of corners, big slide, going all the way off of the circuit, then round through the final corner of Club, and across the line it's 5th place with that lap for Victorious. So who do we reckon then is going to be threatening our drivers at the top end of the field today? Well, Brent could be one of them. Brent's currently on a hot lap at the moment, and they are pushing hard, trying to get themselves up there. Now, we've got to mention there by Mike in the chat that Victorious had a purple sector, but That is a known glitch in this game. That when you're in spectator mode, when you're looking at qualifying through the second sector, all drivers, even if they're not actually faster than the second sector, can potentially have a purple sector come up there. So potentially it's going to be happening there. We've also got a message from Squish saying, "Bro, your voice is nice." But thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But there we go then. And oh wow, crikey, Brent! Then all of a sudden just. Yeah, really, just all of a sudden decided, and you know what, that's not the lap for me. And straight into the pits they've gone then. Lixon, their teammate, has been able to improve by a few tenths and get back up into second place, but they're still about half a second or so off of the back of Dill, up in provisional pole position. Of course, we've still got some drivers with times that are just a little bit anomalous and not looking like the sort of times we'd be expecting. So therefore, there may still be some late challenges to that at the moment here. Once again, off in the exit of Stowe there, but straight into the pits for the AlphaTauri there of Bambi, I believe that was. And then now on board with Rolf. So in the Ferrari, coming through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel. So through they go then, and it looks pretty clean so far. They've hit all of their apexes. They've perhaps been a little bit scared of the apex on the left-hand side coming out of that section. But then headed down the hangar straight into Stowe. This is where it's going to be crucial to get the line right and carry as much speed as possible. Again, touching and just kissing the apex there nicely. But oh, once again, they're teasing us. They're just telling us, no, we're going to all just go into the pits at the end of this lap. So there we are then. That's another lap that's been abandoned. Now we've got Lucas here following on after the other Ferrari, that being of Hoovy Gaming. And I'd hope for both their sakes that they're not on time laps at the moment. They're just doing in laps at the moment. But there we go. That's the long and short of it, really, in terms of what we're seeing here then. So one car following another. Are they both going to go and complete the lap? Yes, they are. So they've both avoided the pit entry there. And I'd imagine that for Lucas, they're not going to have been particularly happy to be following the Ferrari around all the way through this lap, as far as we can see. So across the line they go. There's a bit of an improvement. And Hoovy Gaming pulls over to the right-hand side, but perhaps just a bit later than what Lucas will have wanted there. Oh, look at that there. Both cars just having to dive out of the way of the fast-moving Haas that came between them there.
Yeah, it looks like SHR went out. I don't know what exactly happened there. I just saw it was fully yellow on that sector, so I'm thinking about checking that out. Oh!
Oh dear, and there's Shrek's Jesus having just a little bit of a spin at Cop's Corner. It is a corner where, of course, you are going to be going as flat as you can through there, but there are corners now with the latest patches in this game. Turns like turn 3 in Spain that was previously just a flat corner that you just put a foot down the entire way. Now, even with minimum tire pressures, you can still end up just overcooking the surface temperature of your tires and then going for a spin. I suspect a similar thing may well have happened through Cops there for the Haas drivers. So we jump on board with Icy Radon instead. And we head down the hangar straight. What are you going to tell us here, John?
I think he has, maybe he has enough ERS for finishing this lap. Or no, he's actually going in.
Ah, well, there we go then. So Mercedes decides to go straight into the pits once more, as an awful lot of cars have done that we've been on board with. It's almost like they don't want us to see their laps. It's absolute travesty here. But as it is then, we're going to just keep an eye on everybody that we can and anybody that we think may well be finishing a lap. There's currently there's an Alfa Romeo, I think, going through the last couple of corners at the moment. That will be of Chleb. So through the last turn they go then. Will this be an improvement for them? No, it will not. So that might well be a second attempt at a lap there. We saw some cars, of course, in traffic earlier on. That wouldn't have helped them all too much, but now then, we watched the Williams going around the final couple of corners, or we did, and the Williams, I think that being of Blizz, will just have gone through the last couple of corners. I've not seen any improvement to their time. So again, another driver there unable to improve on what is potentially a second push lap. We'll have to double check that one later on in the race director and all that sort of thing to be able to double check. But as it is then, most cars in the pits at the moment. It's not been a great debut for Ellie in their own league so far. Being relegated to the pit lane, the car unable to start, some sort of reliability problem, we could say, if we were role-playing a little bit here, but more likely just a problem with the game itself. So unfortunate for them, but I'm sure that they'll come back with a vengeance in the race itself. So Blizz then is the car that we are keeping an eye on. Going through Cop's Corner in just a few moments' time. Through they go then. Will they be able to keep it going in a straight line? No, they won't. Round they go, and big hit into the wall. But then they use the reset to track there to get themselves going once more, and just getting slightly in the way of the Red Bull. They will not have appreciated that. That being said, though, I've just double-checked, and Victorious is actually on an outlap, so that won't affect them at all, other than maybe causing a little bit of a code brown in their pants. But there we go. So through onto our attention now goes Bambi. Now Brent, in fact, I do apologise. So Brent comes through the last corner there. Do they improve? Yes, they do. Into the 127s for Brent, 127.9. Dill has not been able to improve when we saw them go out earlier on. So it's now a new outlap for them, and then another attempt. It could be that maybe their best time is their very first one. Who knows? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, there's a big difference from the first place to the last place here, as we can see, and it's exactly nicely fading too. If we had like a time graph here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a mix of luck and/or ability that we're seeing today. But in terms of this, I mean, of course, you know, when you think of modern Formula One, you're looking usually between sort of 2.5 seconds between first and last on the grid. Now, of course, part of that is going to be driver skill, but part of it is also going to be due to the difference in the cars. And we, of course, have equal cars here today. So, with that being said, let's have a look at our provisional pole sitter as they go for another attempt at improving their time. So, through the first couple of corners we go then, car looking nice and stable underneath them, and then hitting the apex nicely in Village. Then through the loop we go, again, just kissing that apex there, not running all the way out onto the curb on exit. And then through the corner of Aintree, and then onto the Wellington straight, then down here, this big blast down towards Brooklands, before then late braking, chuck the car in, try and get a late apex as possible there, before you then, and there we go, first sector looks purple so far on the track map, before we then go through Luffield and now through Woodcut. So Woodcut, this corner here, not much of a corner in modern Formula 1 cars, and now as the checkered flag falls on the session, we've got now just 3 minutes remaining for drivers to finish off their laps if they're currently on one of which will be, of course, Dill. They come through Maggots and Beckett's now then. The car looks balanced from what we can see before Codemasters decide that we need to see some of the sky instead, but then jumping back on board with them, we go all the way down towards Stowe Corner. And late braking once again then just after that 50-meter board. They're really going late and deep on the brakes, keeping it within track limits. They then blast all the way down then into this final section of corners here, into Vale, into Club, and round the last couple of corners we go then. Before then, across the line is an improvement. It is indeed. Dill improves on their existing fastest lap, and that is a brilliant effort from them to be able to solidify their position as top of the timing sheets. Lixon now, realistically, the only car in a position to beat them, and the McLaren comes through Maggots and Beckett's through Chapel, takes the tighter exit there. On the exit of Chapel, pulls the car over to the left-hand side much earlier than other cars that we've been seeing taking the more traditional racing line, going all the way out to the right-hand side before then slowly dragging it across back to the left on the Hangar Straight. Through Stowe we go then into Vale, and looks like it's, very good. Taking of the apexes there in Vale and then Club. Coming up now through that final turn we go onto the Hamilton Straight. Is an improvement. It's an improvement, but it's not good enough to be able to get themselves past their teammate, who I believe has set a very, very similar time, if not the exact same time. I'm just waiting for it to clear. No, it's a very similar time. It's a 1/10 difference between the pair of them to the 1,000th of a second. So very good effort there. So to wrap up your qualifying order then, in pole position, we have Dill in the Aston Martin, then Bambi alongside, and then from third place down, we have Brent, Lixon, Michael, Lucas, Crocker, Rolfie, Victorious, Icy Raydon, Chicken Sucker, a driver we'd never mentioned once during that, and I'm now very happy to be saying that name out loud. Shrex Jesus, Hoovy Gaming, Hubert, Blizz, Chleb, Yoshi Boy, F1 Ellie then rounds out the grid.
Yeah.
Although her qualifying time from her stream is a 1:31.7, so that would put her in P17. So just the one additional position gain there for F1 Ellie. If they were to be in the same session as everybody else, I think that it may well be a case that we might end up having to re-lobby this one and use then the qualifying results and then Ellie's time, just get everybody into the session and get everybody going and groovy. So, interesting qualifying session there then.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say. What were your thoughts on that one, John?
Well, it looks like from the beginning, Dale was putting a solid time compared to other here, and as we saw, he did put a solid time. He was probably like 5-6 tenths from the second place. So yeah, it was solid time from him. Bambi was actually coming out from I would say nowhere, and he actually put on a solid time too for a good second place.
Absolutely, yeah. Some very good times being thrown out by a lot of the drivers here today, especially given that the league is not some sort of multi-division setup like the likes of say PSGL or something like that, where you've got over 20 divisions on a single platform or something along
Yeah.
those lines. No. Here we've got just one division with everybody taking part, and despite that, there is a bit of a gap between sort of first and last, but there's definitely those areas where we're seeing there are groups of drivers at a similar skill level, certainly over one lap. Now, of course, there can be drivers who find themselves in a good position to then be able to get some. I don't know. My brain has just completely shut down there. Whatever point I was going to make, it's completely gone out the window. So there we go. There's my first Croftyism of the day. So in terms of what we're seeing in the chat, then F1 LE quali time was that 1:31.7. But she's just doing some practicing. So learning the track. Well, now they're backtracking. Now they're saying, no, just learning the track in the pit, watching from the pit lane. Yes, well, that's something that, of course, we can keep an eye on later on. All the points are scored in the race, though, aren't they? So we'll wait and see. We're just now getting our invites to get back into the session. And Oliver's saying, yeah, don't worry, FIA look away. That's fine. We're not the FIA. We're just the commentators. We're just the broadcasters. We don't care anything about the rules. No. So we are going to re-lobby this session then. And hopefully this time everybody is able to load in without any problem. Of course, given the state that the game is launched in, the number of patches it's had in quick succession, they've fixed some things, they've fixed not some other things, and other things that they have introduced, and they've not been a particular success in some avenues versus others. But as a result, we've got to lump it for now. We've got to just keep on cracking on, and hopefully, when everybody gets back into the session proper, we'll be able to go racing in earnest. In terms of this one, then, what are you thinking, John, in terms of any strategies that we might see amongst all of the drivers that we've got here today?
Oh, I don't actually really know. I haven't seen because they were practicing a bit, so I don't know what they've been trying out. Somebody's probably trying out, I know, maybe a 2 strategy pit stop or a one. We see through the race, and hopefully it will favor us with a good entertaining and actually see what people are doing compared to what other people are doing. So not going to be like fully the same here. We have a wide different of strategy from different people, so people have different mindset too.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, in this game, it seems to be that the hard tire does seem to be viable. Of course, if we remember back to F1 2021, the hard tire more often than not was a tire which was, it was not a particularly reliable tire. It would certainly get all the way to the end of the race. You could basically do a stop at the end of lap one and run the hard tire all the way to the end at most circuits. But it never really gave you much pace, so you couldn't really compete with other drivers who were not using that tyre. So as a result, in this game, things seem an awful lot more balanced in terms of those tyre compounds. And then much like in the real world, the mediums and the hards tend to be the ones that are getting used the most this season. Now, part of that is due to the rule change where you no longer have to take your Q2 tyre into the start of the race if you qualify in the top 10. And then, of course, that's carried over here into the game as well. You don't have to start on that soft tyre. But, of course, you can do if you choose to. Now, the benefit that drivers will have here as we head back into a lobby with qualifying done, and the grid presumably will be arranged in accordance with those times that we previously saw, it then means that we will have drivers with a bit more flexibility to their strategy, because they're going to have a few more soft tyres available in fresh condition than they would have done otherwise having run a qualifying session. So things are looking pretty good so far. For those drivers, in terms of what we're seeing in the chat, some guy anti saying do a Ferrari strategy. I think that would be what would that be? I mean, if we've got 26 lap race here around Silverstone. That's going to be, well, let's go to lap 8 on the hards, then pit for softs, then take them to lap 20, and then put the wet tyre on at the end in dry conditions. That's surely the Ferrari strategy, right?
Yeah, something around there.
Hmm.
Sounds about right.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
Right now,
So,
just waiting for the few people to gather up, and then we're gonna ready.
excellent. Very good. That's what we like to see. Everybody getting back into the lobby nice and quickly here. We've got all 18 drivers now, I think. So we've just got to wait and see when they do start readying up here. Now, I'm just going to review some of the messages in the Discord. Yeah, we don't have everybody just yet. I think, according to one message I'm seeing here, that apparently Ellie is not in the lobby.
Yeah.
Let's have a look up and down the field. No, she's not. Okay, well, somebody needs to jump into her chat and tell her that we're resetting the lobby. And she needs to join us in there. Otherwise, she's going to have a very, very lonely race, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So there we are. We've got everybody else though. Apart from that, I think that now could it be that we've got one additional Aston Martin or Mercedes driver possibly now that there we go.
Yeah.
Ellie's in, and as I say, we've now got 19 drivers. We had 18 originally, so it was either the Mercedes or the Aston. That must have joined because they were the two cars that were missing a teammate earlier on. So let's just have a look through the rest of the order if we can, and we'll see whether there we go. It's a Mercedes then. So Mushy has joined us, and that means that Dill is still the solo Aston Martin in the field at the moment. So it looks like everybody is getting ready. That being said, though, drivers are being told in the chat not to ready up. So I'm not sure why the pause. It may well be because they're setting up the quali order.
Yeah.
So
we
so
probably
there we
want
go.
that to have the right order if we actually want to have a proper race.
Yes, exactly. We don't want to end up having a totally random grid and people having a, imagine for poor Dill if they ended up at the back of the grid as a result of that. So we'll just wait for this all to be sorted out. In the meantime, why don't we? I don't know. We can fill some more time with some more stuff. I mean, let's take a look at essentially the front page newspaper for F1 News, the F1 subreddit. And let's have a look at what's been going on. Well, there's an interesting story here that I can tell you about. So it's all to do with David Coulthard and the 1995 British Grand Prix. So this is taken from his book, and there's a passage here which I shall read to you now. And I'll even do a Scottish accent to try and make it a little bit more immersive as DC reading it. Back in the 1995, during the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, I was racing very hard and, as always, wanted to give the British fans a great race. Suddenly, my race radio crackled into life. Dave! Dave! Yes? I asked, rather puzzled by them not using DC. I wonder which member of my team this is and what the team order will be. All right, Dave. Can you do a 2:30 pickup in Toaster? It turned out to be a local taxi firm's radio had picked up my car radio, and they were calling a driver who just happened to be called David. Obviously, the taxi request was pretty urgent, so I just politely said, "Sorry, I can't. I'm a wee bit busy right now." So there you go. So that's the story of how David Coulthard then ended up getting radio from a taxi company during the British Grand Prix in 1995. Of course, his first full season in Formula One, the first year that he got a race win as well at the Portuguese Grand Prix, and then of course went on to have success at McLaren and at Red Bull as well. The three teams that he raced for in his Formula One career. So there we are. That's a little bit of time that's been saved there, but we've got more time to fill apparently because we've got drivers who are. Oh no! There we go. We've got the message. We've got people readying up. The lobby is going. Hooray! Everybody! We don't have to listen to story time with Dan anymore. Instead, we can focus on a race. Now, if I if I remember rightly, we have disabled Formation Lap because there is currently a glitch in the game, such that in the Formation Lap, in multiplayer, for whatever reason, only the hosts are able to keep their tire temperatures from whatever they warm them up to during the Formation Lap. So everybody else gets reset back to 70 degrees, which of course is far too cold. Story time with Dave was nice, though, says Oliver. Thank you, Oliver. But yeah, so so we will be going straight into the race, basically. So as we see them come up onto the grid, we will be waiting for those 5 red lights, and away we will go. So please wait, it says. Let's drum up that little bit of anticipation now, just a little bit more. And we will get ready to see the grid firing off down into turn 1. I'd imagine the first time that we'll see proper overtakes rather than just jumping people at the start is probably going to be down into that turn number 3, turn village, we call that one. So we're still waiting.
Yeah, we are. Maybe you can pop up another story while we're waiting.
Well, maybe one more story. Let's tell a story, shall we? In terms of stories, well, let's see. What can I find here? What has the F1 subreddit got to tell us today? As the circuit blooms into life. Well, there's something which we can tell you about now. There's a Monaco-based YouTuber who has taken delivery of the first ever Rimac Nevera. That Monaco-based YouTuber is actually 2016 Formula One World Champion Nico Rosberg. So interesting that the Top Gear website is, you can tell that's tongue in cheek. If the Top Gear website is referring to Nico Rosberg as a Monaco-based YouTuber, then there's clearly something going on there. But there we go then. So they've got that, and then there's a bunch more speculation, of course, about Fernando Alonso. Is the move to Aston Martin the right decision? I think that it's certainly not going to be any worse than having beaten the drum at Alpine for a third time at the Enstone team. No real success last year other than the podium. This year, not much success. The car's not been very reliable, but I think that had the team culture, and particularly Otmar Zafnauer, been a bit more accommodating for Fernando and had a bit more faith placed in him, then we may well have seen him stay there, because they've certainly been moving in the right direction on the track, but it seems off of the track, Alpine are having a bit of a nightmare time. They've got some of that Ferrari politics sort of sneaking and creeping their way into the Enstone team, especially with, if reports are to be believed, some micromanagement by the likes of Laurent Rossi, who of course is the CEO of Alpine Cars and of Alpine Formula One. So it's there's some internal strife going on at Alpine, and then of course they've now started to come out and suggest that actually Piastri won't be driving for them next year, after they of course originally released that statement saying that he would. In terms of what we're seeing on here, soymotor.com have said that with regards to Regalia and the Piastri case, it confirms the mismanagement of Alpine and Zafnauer. So, fairly damning headline there. And then in terms of what else we can see, well, Red Bull has incorporated a separate company, apparently, to probably ensure that they'll be regarded as a new engine manufacturer in 2026 with, presumably, Porsche. In this way, they could receive some benefits, because, of course, if you're an existing manufacturer going into the new engine rules in 2026, then you get less development time, and there's also other bits and pieces that are going to be thrown the benefit of brand new manufacturers to the sport at that particular point in time. So that also coincides with their decision to continue buying power units from Honda Racing Corporation until 2025 and run them under the Red Bull Powertrains name.
Yeah, that's a bit interesting.
Yeah, we are still waiting. The track has loaded, but there we go. There we go. We confirmed from one of our admins or moderators. I forget the exact term for them in the Discord. They have confirmed that they're doing another restart of the lobby. They have a lobby bug going on there. So hopefully things shape out relatively shortly. But well, it's. Again, this is just the state of the game at the moment. We cannot even start a game with a bunch of people who can connect to each other relatively easily. and are all running the same version of the game. They're all running these things, and the game just does not work. It's a real shame because, I think it's fair to say everybody in the F1 game community wants the game to be good. They want to be able to say, Codemasters, what an amazing job you've done, but they're not really giving us much,
Share about.
ability to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, what have your experiences so far been on the game?
No,
You
it's
know,
just
this
like the
season.
last year with the desync and all that problem. It's not fun when it's happening. You have all this constant technical problem showing up and popping up. It's a bit harsh, but it's something you have to deal with, I guess, and you just gotta get used to. But with dumb one, I usually get used to.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's you buy a product, you want it to work, and that's regardless whether it's a video game or anything else that you buy in life. And they need to really get on top of this. I think. I mean, they have released a couple of updates, and fair play to them for doing that. But as I mentioned earlier on, they've fixed some things, other things are still there, and they've even introduced new problems as well. Or made existing problems worse. So there we are. We've got a message in chat from Oliver asking, "Are you looking forward to the new F1 Manager game?" John, I'll let you answer that one first.
Yeah, honestly, I think I like the whole idea of you actually can manage a whole team through the perspective of a team principal. That's a quite clever idea, I would say, and it's one of those strategy game where you actually gotta use the brain a bit. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward for that game, and I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it should be good fun for those who are interested in it and want to get into it. I think it's not going to be a game for everybody.
No,
In the same way that even this game, it's not a game for everybody. If you're not into racing games, then of course the official F1 game is not going to be on your list of things. But certainly as far as strategy games, as you say, in terms of management games, real time strategy, that sort of thing, I think this is going to be a good seller here, especially given the level of complexity which they seem to be bringing to the table with this one. So I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'm not sure just yet if I'll play it or whether I'll just be watching it, but hopefully it's a good one. And you never know if it is multiplayer. I don't know if it is or not, but if it is multiplayer in some way, shape, or form, then you never know. Maybe we'll end up seeing some league racing coming out in the form of the strategy games and in the management there. So rather than players racing on circuit with one another, it would instead be the team principals, fighting to get their cars to come home first and second. That could be interesting. Again, don't know if that's going to happen or be in the game, but that's maybe some wishful thinking on my part. So, in terms of this, then, we have got most, if not everybody, back into the lobby. Yeah, no, just most people back into the lobby at this point. 15 out of 19 drivers back in so far. Ellie has been able to rejoin nice and quickly this time, so we're not gonna be waiting for them for a while, as we did on the previous lobby up. And we then just got to wait for everybody else now. So yeah, we're gonna continue to. Going to continue to try and fill some time here. It's certainly a bit of a trial by fire here for us in the commentary box in terms of just got to we've got to
it is one of those waiting games. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in terms of what else can I tell you? Well, let's have a look at various things. There's so many things that get posted on the F1 subreddit, which you should go over and subscribe to if you want the best in F1 news. Small plug there for me being a moderator of the subreddit. But there we are. So we've got. Well, there's a rather tasteless video there that's been posted, so I'm going to actually remove that. So there we go. There's been a live removal of a shit post on our Formula One on stream. But there we are. We've then got some posts here. What can we talk about? Well, there's an article here from RacingNews365.com, who, of course, just a few days ago were putting out the article seemingly confirming that it's Ricciardo out and Piastri in at McLaren. And this article here, the headline telling you that Steiner pinpoints moments of Schumacher improvement. So Mick Schumacher's difficult start to the 2022 season resulted in public criticism from Haas team boss Gunther Steiner, but the German soon bounced back to score consecutive points finishes. Speaking exclusively to RacingNews365.com, Steiner reveals the moment when he saw a change in Schumacher's approach. Gunther Steiner says the start of Mick Schumacher's upswing in form in 2022 can be pinpointed to the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. After an error-strewn start to the year that included hefty crashes in Jeddah and Monaco, Schumacher's form has picked up in recent races. The German scored his first ever championship points with 8th place at the British Grand Prix, before following that up with a 6th place in Austria, where he battled for several laps with Lewis Hamilton. Speaking exclusively to RacingNews365.com, Steiner says the seeds for Schumacher's improved form were sown in Montreal 1 race before his points finish at Silverstone. Quote, after Monaco, I don't know if he took less risk, but I could see some change in Canada where he seemed to be more confident and more relaxed about things, not always trying to do more than was possible, Steiner told RacingNews365.com F1 podcast to be broadcast on Monday, August the 9th. It's difficult to see in drivers, they put poker faces on, but I just could see in Canada it felt a lot easier, and then the results came in Silverstone and Austria, which was good, so hopefully we can keep it like this. We want Mick to succeed, because if Mick succeeds, we succeed, because he's part of the team. So that's the first part of that article there. Now, in terms of that, I mean, first of all, it seems like the same sentence has been used about 4 times there in that particular article. But sort of writing and grammar aside, I think I would totally agree with Gunther there. It was fairly easy to see that Schumacher was having a bit of a tougher time of it in the opening few rounds. There was some promise, and then a mistake here, a mistake there. But then all of a sudden, as he rightly says, in Canada, everything suddenly seemed to start coming together, and it was looking very strong indeed. Before then, all of a sudden, we ended up seeing what was it? It was a mechanical failure, wasn't it, for Schumacher in Canada? So that then meant they missed out on that opportunity to be able to show that promise, show that improvement. Because if not, then I think it would have been 3 consecutive point scores on the trot for Schumacher. 1 in Canada, 1 in Silverstone, and then 1 in what do you call it? Austria. No, it was Austria, wasn't it? Yeah. There we go. We've got a couple of our chat mods now jumping in and saying, pray that the lobby doesn't bug again. Okay, I shall pray to the Almighty. That being someone I shall decide in a moment who that is. But Duke saying, I love Dan. I love me too. Thanks, Duke. I love you too as well. I also love John, because John is a lovely chap. It's...
I think we're playing enough of this waiting game, so hopefully we don't have to wait more after this, after we load it in here.
You would hope so. Yeah, you would hope that things are gonna kick off proper in just a few moments' time. We are seeing some drivers readying up. I don't know whether that's because we've got if everybody has been told to ready. No, I've just had a look in their chat, and they have been told to ready up. So hopefully, 3rd time's the charm. We'll see. We'll see this working. Oliver saying, "Oh, mighty Codemaster / EA servers, please let us watch some racing while my tea is at least drinkable." I'm going to go one step further. Oh, mighty Lee Mather, may your brummy self allow our game to be stable and strong and get all the way through to the end of 26 laps at Silverstone. And I'm now going to imagine his response. Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, we'll just get that all sorted and we'll make sure it all works for you. Obviously, that's not actually how Lee Mather sounds, but that's as close to Birmingham as I can get at the moment. So there we go. It's I think he's from Birmingham anyway. He sounds like one of those sort of rummies who's got a very, very light accent. It's a tricky one to pick up on. Just in case anybody is out there thinking about impressions and things like that and accents, it's always easier to copy someone else doing a fake voice rather than copying someone's natural voice, because if someone's faking it, then it's much easier to fake it as well. Oliver saying, that was him 1-to-1. You're being far too kind to me, Oliver. I don't think it really was, but there we go. Mike saying, hopefully they don't repeat Joe's crash again. Well, you would hope so. But we are just waiting in the wings here for things to kick off. We have some notifications coming through on Discord. No, sorry, they're not for the league. They're for me. I do apologise. That's my own stuff. So we've got some other bits and pieces. Yes, content. It's all content, Squish. This is all content. This is all things that we can use and we can put out there. I mean, let's let's get Toto Wolff onto the broadcast. Not Toto Wolff for legal reasons, but we'll say it's Toto Wolff. Toto, what are you thinking in terms of the lobby connections here today? Unacceptable. I think that it's totally unacceptable that on the first lap we are not getting any racing whatsoever, and then of course we're seeing the problem with Ellie trying to get into the session, and it's not good at all. Well, thank you for that, Toto. We will let you get back to it. We might come back to the Mercedes pit garage at some point to get more from Toto in this race. But now, finally, we've got 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go. And everybody's not moving. Now they go! Now everybody's going. And after a long hold there, after the lights went out, maybe they just went out on our screen, I don't know, but it looks like Dill has maintained their pole position. Into the lead they go on lap 1. Bambi is in second place. Brent right behind them. Brent up the inside into turn number 3, into Village. And now as they head up towards the loop, there's contact. So, oh dear, that's Bambi coming across the track, forcing Brent across. And then that means that Michael ended up coming a cropper. But now as they head through the loop, there's already a safety car has been deployed at this very, very early stage of the race, and that's a Mercedes out of the race. Oh dear, I think we've got to get Toto, though not Toto for legal reasons, back in. Toto, what do you think of that race start for Icy Radon? I'm going to sack Icy from the team. He's been able to spin it round in the first couple of corners here at Silverstone. Oh, this is not good. This is not good at all. Now all of our hopes sit on Mushi, and we are hoping that they're going to be able to bring it home. Thank you very much, Toto, though not Toto for legal reasons. So, there we are. That is most of the, well, not even most, some of the first lap completed under racing conditions. But now we've got to watch them all poodle round, get round to the Wellington Straight, where then the safety car will pick them up, and we will then go off into then what I imagine is going to be 2 or 3 laps worth of safety car running. So it's probably not going to be until lap 3 or 4 that we're actually going to get some racing in this race.
Even more waiting.
Yeah, even more waiting. This is the waiting Grand Prix. At what point does a Grand Prix then move over into an endurance race, I wonder? Because I think we're going to get close to that, if nothing else. There's also a 5-second time penalty from Rolfie for ignoring yellow flags. So
that's probably something you don't want to do.
That's not something you want to do, and I think that's just that might well have been suggested by the team. You never know. Ferrari's strategy: ignore the yellows, go around all of the drivers in front of you. Something like that. I don't know. That's my attempt at a Ferrari race engineer, but I've never done that before. So let me know how that one went. So I never thought I'd be doing all of my F1 impressions on this broadcast, but there we go. That's just how things have gone today. We've got then a few cars into the pits, then presumably for some change of tyres and damage as well. And well, we've got both Hasses in. They double stacked. This one here, the second one of Shrek's Jesus, taking quite some time to get going. And RGB Mouse in the chat saying someone has to give me Schleb's number. Oh, crikey, we've even got somebody now speaking to John in the background. Crikey, dingo. I don't know whether he's muted himself on stream and you're hearing that or not, but I can certainly hear it. But anyway, commentators having other conversations aside, we've got Shrek's Jesus then back out onto the circuit. Mushy then continues to circulate round in 15th position, the lone Mercedes now in the race. And through all of that, F1 Ellie has been able to get themselves up into P8. A brilliant little start for Ellie there after missing qualifying and having to set lap times all on her lonesome.
I think this might be her first time to score points if she actually scores points. There was one time she actually was in for points, but I think somebody actually crashed in front and did it on purpose.
Oh, well, that's not what we want to see at all. Well, hopefully, with all that's going on in the field right now, Dill still leading, then Bambi, then the 2 McLarens, as it was at the start of this race. Then, oh crikey, then Chicken Sucker, who's got the best name on this grid, I think it's fair to say. And then we've got the rest that then follow. So we've then got Lucas, F1 Ellie, Schleb, Croker, Rolfie, Michael, Yoshi Boy, Hubert or Hubert, and that's someone's gone off the circuit there and has fallen back behind there. I think that was Hubert, maybe. And then they've retaken the position from the Alpine there. Now, whether or not they've then got to give that back, because maybe they've done something off of circuit, I don't know. But there we are then. So on to just another lap of safety car then. So tyres, of course, needing to stay in temperature. It's much easier now to lose temperature. Oh, and there's an example of it. Victorious ends up going round and then also resets the track. Now, I don't know if that's allowed. Resetting to track. I'm not sure if it is. But regardless, they have completely lost it all on their own. No contact or anything like that. We saw it here on the broadcast. And victorious then all the way around. So that's not what we want to see from them. They're not down the back of the order because that is Hoovy Gaming, who's coming up towards the back of them on tyres that will be at much higher temperatures at this point, because they've been into the pits. They've come out way behind everybody else and been able to go at normal racing speeds up towards the back of the field. So, dear oh dear, this is this safety car is going far too slowly for my liking. I want to see some racing here today. I want to see us get going. It's lap what are we on now? Lap 3 or lap 5? I can't quite tell. The thing's sort of pixelated. Lap 3, excellent. Oh well, good. I'm glad it's only lap 3 because I was thinking to myself, oh crikey, we've not actually done 5 laps behind safety car, have we? But there we go. So 3 laps in this race so far, or almost 3 laps. We're on the 3rd lap right now. And we've got then the 2 McLarens line astern. That'll be a good result for them in the constructors. But yeah, we've got things moving along rather smoothly for the most part. Ellie has been able to get up into P7 now rather than P8. I think someone may have spun around and we just didn't catch that, possibly. I don't know. Or maybe going to the pits or something like that, because they were in P8, weren't they? Or am I imagining that?
Oh, I think. I also got orders that Vic would get a 3-second time penalty for the reset, so it is not allowed to reset on track. And I hope everybody that is, I don't know if they're watching the stream, knows that that is not allowed, so they don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you will gain an awful lot of time by resetting the track, of course, especially if you're pointing in the wrong direction or pointing into a wall. But if you're going to lose 3 seconds at the end, well, that's not something that you're going to be. You're not going to be particularly happy about, really, are you? But then, of course, in Victorious's case, all self-inflicted, unfortunately. Just a bit too extreme in terms of that. But away we go then. I didn't even realise the safety car was coming in. And we're back under racing conditions. There's an Alfa Romeo there. I think that's Lucas who's gone round. That promotes then pretty much all of the field up into positions above them. Except we've got a couple who must be napping all the way at the back of the field there. Mushy has only just come round onto the Hamilton straight. And now look at this then. Chicken Sucker has been able to get by Lixon here. So Lixon, the Chicken Sucker, and they have been able to get themselves up to P4, and the McLaren now down to P5, and now headed down the Wellington Straight. It's very close indeed between Dill, Bambi, and Brent up at the front end of the field here. But then, in terms of throughout the rest of the pack, we've then got Croker making a move on Ellie at the moment. They've been able to get by the Red Bull driver, and there you go. You see the Williams car there, sitting pride of place in P6 in this race, and now Ellie under pressure from the car behind, that being Rolfie in the Ferrari, and then Michael is just adrift to then be able to pick up the pieces. Now it's a Red Bull going side by side with another car into Cop's corner. Ellie survives though, no contact there, no spinning off into the wall at all, so that's good for them. We go back to Lixon then, who've been able to get themselves into contention with this fight with Chicken Sucker up in front of them, and they head now onto the hangar straight. No DRS yet, of course, because we've had that full safety car rather than a virtual safety car, so it's all just going to be about the use of deployment, the setups on the car, and then up the inside into Stowe corner goes Lixon, and they are able to reclaim their position in 4th place in this race. But it's not over yet. Look at this then. Into Vale they go, and it's close, but no cigar for Chicken Sucker, so they have to then settle in to 5th place for now. And big mistake from them as well in the final couple of corners through Club Corner there. So unfortunately for them, that is a bit of ground they're having to now make back up on the McLaren. Meanwhile, back up towards the sharp end of the field, Bambi very close to the back of Dill at the moment, and the Aston Martin here under significant pressure. But I think if we were to switch on tyres, I think that Dill is running the hards. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it looks like he's running the hards, sir. It looks like he has the white stripes on the side there. Yeah, he does.
He does.
He's
so there is a
playing the long
pace.
game.
There is a long game being played here, and realistically then, Bambi and Brent need to get past Dill as quickly as possible so they can then make the best use of their medium compound tyres, which will be faster at this stage. They will be able to get themselves into good overtaking opportunities and even be able to pound off down the road, but the longer they stay behind, the more advantage is being given to Dill. Now, through Maggots and Beckets and Chapel we go. And it's a bit of time lost there for Bambi through that section of the circuit, because even though, of course, these cars are much better at following one another, they're still not perfect. So, as a result, a bit of time lost through the twisty bits there for Bambi. So, as we then move throughout the field then, we can see that Hoovy Gaming has got themselves up into P9 now, having been all the way down at the back of the field on the safety car restart. And now then, Ellie, who we're on board with at the moment, is up to P10 currently in this race. Takes a little bit of track extension there on Stowe Corner, and there we go then. It might be that Victorious has potentially reset to track again then. I can see some comments in a different chat here that people saying, oh, that's not allowed, Victorious, so it might be that they've gotten another 3-second time penalty for resetting to track. Mushy has also apparently reset to track at some point around this race, and will have picked up a time penalty as a result. Then we can see here Rolfie now taking the corner onto the Wellington Straight. They're off in pursuit of the cars in front of them, and then once again, Dill is under massive pressure from Bambi behind, but because we've not got DRS in use until this lap, I believe, or possibly next lap. I'm getting that. So DRS is enabled this lap. So we'll see it in just a few moments' time then, unless, of course, Bambi ends up having a bit of a moment, a bit of a mare into Maggots and Beckett's here and loses more than a second's worth of time, but it doesn't look like that's happened. So DRS, there you go. That rear wing flap has opened up on the car. That means they'll have a greater straight line speed, but it doesn't seem like it's enough here. Maybe Dill has just been saving up ERS to be able to defend down that straight. If you're able to deploy all the way down the straight, then unless the car behind you is doing the same thing and using the ERS, they're not going to catch you. So there we are then. It is as you were between Dill and Bambi so far in this race. And through the final corner, through Club Corner they go then. Initially fastest lap set by Dill, but then it was set by Bambi. Understandable, of course, given that they have been able to get themselves right up the back there of the fastest car on circuit at the moment. And Brent has fallen down the order because they have gone into the pit lane. What can we see about what Brent is doing here?
Doesn't look like he has any damage on his wing.
No, so they come out of the pits then, and it's going to be the hard tyres on Brent's car. So are they going for an enormous undercut on the rest of the field? Because, I mean, at this point, yes, we're 7 laps into this race. Oh, goodness gracious me. That was incredibly close between Hoovy Gaming and Victorious there. If that had been contact, that would have all been on Hoovy Gaming. They were just coming straight across the track and across the racing line at a very, very slow speed indeed. That was not on Victorious to slam on the anchors. They're all big spin there for Croker. Croker has croaked, and through what is that? Woodcote Corner on the run down towards Cops rather. They've ended up losing the total total composure there, and away they go. So Rolfie then continues to follow on close to the back of Chicken Sucker. With that pit stop, Brent has now been able to get themselves a position on Victorious with those fresh tyres, and now the Ferrari opens up the DRS. They move to the left-hand side. This will become the outside into Stowe Corner, and into Stowe we go, and round the outside the Ferrari goes, keeping it on the circuit the whole time, doesn't use an extension of track limits like the AlphaTauri behind them, and now they keep the inside going into the Vale chicane. The AlphaTauri goes deep though, really deep on the brakes, and is able to get themselves back up the inside, and now as they head through Club Corner back onto the Hamilton Straight, it is Chicken Sucker back in front. That's some good racing there, but potentially a little bit questionable in terms of the track limits and the extensions going on there. But if it's all within the rules, they're not getting penalties, then you've got to use every advantage you can. Up the inside though into Village Corner, and now up towards the loop, it'll be the outside. The Ferrari seems to have the legs on the AlphaTauri now through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. It looks like the Ferrari is ahead, but will they have DRS? Yes, they do. So they are effectively protected all the way down the Wellington Straight here rather, and then into this next section of corners, into Luffield, into Brooklands, and then Woodcote. It looks like they are safe for the time being.
That was some good racing there. That's what I want to see. Exactly this.
And we've got a chat question here. Can we see the tyres for the drivers, please, using the spectator menu? So we'll get those up for you shortly. Don't you worry at all. I think it's under detail. So yes, there you go. So tyres, there you are. And that's then the list of tyres at the moment. So particular drivers I think that we should be keeping an eye on then. Of course, Dill running at the front of the field at the moment on the hard tyres. And then Lixon also on hard tyres, whereas then everybody else in the top 9 are on the mediums. Then, of course, we've got Brent down in P10 at the moment. They're on their brand new hard tyres, which we expect they will take all the way to the end of the race. So this is something which we can expect to see. Now, we've got a question of how long the soft tyres can last. On this game, I'm not too certain, but I would imagine something in the region of possibly about 7, 8, maybe 9 laps if you're running high tyre pressures, but of course by doing that you also run high tyre temperatures, so you'll have less grip and potentially even spin. So it's a gamble to go onto the soft tyres at any point in a Grand Prix these days, especially with the way in which the game has been patched. And you can see there the different lines being taken by the two drivers. So we're on board with Bambi. They take a bit more of a traditional racing line, touching the apex at the centre of the corner and then going on through to the exit, whereas then Dill takes that much more V'd line. It's a much more sort of a Sebastian Vettel line, if you will, through the corner, trying to maximise the rear, the exit using the rear end grip that's then available to them as a result. So we go through the next few corners in Maggins and Beckett, and there we go. We can see them headed on to the Hangar Straight, and once again, Bambi is close enough to get DRS, but they're not close enough to get a move done. So there we go. That is your order at the moment in the top 2. Now, I think what's going to be very interesting is then what these drivers are going to elect to put their cars onto in terms of their next tyres. If we end up with the hard tyre runners, they can do whatever they like. They could take their hards all the way to the point where the softs become viable, or they could go to just where the mediums are viable. If the medium tyre runners rather are able to conserve their tyres, then they could potentially go late enough into the race to then get the softs on and take them to the end, though it will be a bit more of a struggle. So more likely is we're going to see those medium tyre runners going onto the hards. Soft runners should pit around 16 to 17, according to one message in the chat from Mike. I'm not sure if that's as in someone wanting to go on to softs at the end of the race, then I'm in total agreement. If it's drivers who have started on the softs, then I would completely disagree with you. One driver who's decided to go into the pits and get the hard tyres on is Chicken Sucker, and they have decided to go in there and get that new set of boots on. They've then gone down the order as a result, so that then promotes the likes of Shrek's Jesus, Croker, Ellie, and Brent, and now Victorious and Lucas up into higher positions as well. And you can see there then that Brent has gotten an enormous overcut on them, and Mushy out of the race. Oh dear. Mercedes have ended up going out of this race, and that's a real shame then for them. Toto Wolff, though not Toto for legal reasons, what do you reckon? This is absolutely unacceptable, and we will be having a talk internally to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we are going to make sure that we put in new procedures in place to make sure that everything is going to be fine for the next race. Excellent. Thank you, Toto. I'm sure that you will be wanting to get onto your private jet now. So there we go. We were getting in the chat there. Oh no, he went there. It was a Toto interview. Yes, it was. You're damn right I did. So that's that then. And no Mercedes running in this race anymore. We originally had just the one Mercedes in qualifying. Then Mushy was able to join us because of the lobby issues. And now, of course, both drivers out of this race. That's a crying shame for them. But for the rest of the fields, they are going to crack on and continue regardless. Now, we've got Dill continuing to lead the way. They've now actually started to drop Bambi. So those medium tyres are presumably starting to go off at this point. So this is not what we want to see in terms of a fight for the win here, because of course if Bambi's not able to clear Dill and then start to pull ahead of them, then it's pretty much game, set, and match to Dill, unless there's a great big mistake, or if we end up having some sort of a problem with whatever it was I was going to say, I don't know. But now we're seeing a battle between the Red Bulls. We've got F1 Ellie up in front of us, and then Victorious we're on board with at the moment. Victorious gets a huge launch out of that corner at Aintree, and then down the Wellington Straight has the DRS, gets the move done up the inside into Brooklands. And that's a fairly easy academic move at the end there. I think that, again, This is an instance where we've got then hard tyres starting to come to the fore, with the medium tyres starting to drop off at this not late to say, this sort of midpoint in the race that we're approaching currently. Midpoint, of course, will be lap 13. We're now just crossed over onto lap 12, with Dill having just come across the line. Bambi is still pounding around, still trying to do their best, but they have been dropped quite convincingly by Dill the last couple of laps. We're now on board with Croker. And we've got a disqualification for Chleb. Now, did we see what happened there? Why did they get disqualified?
I think it was
No,
he was
know.
driving
Okay.
the wrong
Never
way.
mind.
Popped up.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Dear. Oh dear. Well, that's certainly something that's going to get you disqualified in a hurry. So unfortunate for them then that they decided to go the wrong way and ruin their own race, but there we go. It then means that we've now got some drivers coming into the pits. We've got the Williams on screen at the moment, and I wish I could tell you which one that was, but the names are just a little bit pixelated, so I can't quite see. That's Crocker, excellent. So they have got themselves a new set of boots, new set of hard tyres to go to the end of this race, and they're coming out just behind Shrek's Jesus in the Haas, and then Hoovy Gaming has been able to get past the pair of them, but they will need to come in for a stop. They are on 10-lap-old medium tyres at this stage, so they'll need to pit probably in the next few laps or so if they want to go into the hards, and if they really want to try and stretch it out, then you're going to be looking at something in the region of maybe laps of, as we were saying earlier on, 16, 17, something like that.
So it looks like Bambi is going in for a pit right now.
Yeah, very, very slow pit lane here in Silverstone. All because, of course, of a certain Michael Schumacher. A number of years ago, we weren't using this track layout at the time, but he was able to finish a race by coming into the pit lane at Silverstone and crossing the line, and then serving a stop-go penalty in the pits after they'd already technically crossed the line. So we now have this very, very slow pit lane speed limit, partially, of course, for safety, but then also because then it means that your fastest laps are not going to be set by going through the pits, because, of course, in terms of as the crow flies, in terms of the distance that you're traveling in the pit lane, it's much quicker to get to the start-finish line than the actual circuit itself, until, of course, you apply that speed limit. Oh, what was that there? That was either a brake check or a lag or something like that, but that's then the Alpine getting past the Williams, and there we go then. That's them up into another position, up into 11th place so far. Couldn't undercut, maybe bring P1 into contention again, that being for, I'm guessing, for Bambi. Potentially it could, but they're going to need to put in some very, very impressive lap times, whilst then obviously bearing in mind that Dill is going to go on to either fresh mediums or fresh softs for the end of this race, and so they will have huge amounts of pace in comparison to what will at that point be an old hard tyre running a driver. Now Ellie has got the racing buzz on once again. They lost that position to their teammate a couple of laps ago, but now around the outside at Luffield Corner. That's a brilliant move from F1 Ellie. Round the outside there, round the outside still, going through, of course, then Woodcut and then Copse Corner, and then through towards Mackett and Beckett's they go, and they've got the... Oh, sorry, no, I do apologise. That's Victorious who's ahead. I'm talking absolute nonsense. So Victorious was the one who got that move done. They've got the hard tyres on, and Ellie has the mediums, if I'm reading this correctly. But there we go. So that's... I do apologise. It is a bit difficult for me to see them. It's no problem on John's part. It's just down to my internet connection, but I am struggling to see the names and the times and so on at the moment. It's just a bit pixely on my screen. So I'll do my best, but if there's anything that I'm struggling with, I will just pass it over to you, John. I hope you don't mind. So in terms of this then, we're watching Chicken Sucker at the moment. What can you tell us about Chicken Sucker so far?
At the moment, he's been doing really well. He's been going up and down this leaderboard. Right now, he's holding up to a consistent P6 and maybe even taking the chase for a P5. He's really doing really well. He's on the hards, and he has done one stop already, and he's doing pretty solid at the moment. And as we see, Ali is actually dropping far behind too. She hasn't pitted yet, so that's going to be a bit harsh for her, considering this is her first time doing this game. So it might be a reason for her not being that on the prime today.
Possibly. I think that what may be going on here for Ellie is they might be trying the medium to soft strategy. Because at this point, if you were going from mediums to hard tires, then of course, as we can see, the mediums have very much gone off of a cliff at this point. But you can definitely have the car in much earlier and go onto the hards, and they will go to the end of the race pretty reliably, pretty solidly. But then at this point, if you're still out on lap 15 with old medium tires, then the softs are clearly what they're aiming for. Now, there's some chatter in their chat, oddly enough, that's suggesting that they pit at the end of this lap, so we might see them go in. But I'm not too sure about that. I think that if you were wanting to maximize the strategy, you would stay out for just one more lap. Make sure then that you've got as minimum a run on those softs as possible, because of course, when they start to go off, they will go off in a big way. So round the final turn then once again, and F1 Ellie starts another lap in this Grand Prix. So we're on board then with Lixon, who's on those hard tyres that they of course started the race on. Same as Dill in front of them, but Dill has been able to pull out a gap of 12.7 seconds to the car behind. And Bambi, despite being on fresh tyres at this point in time, they are still just about 23 seconds off the back of Lixon. Yeah. So I think that their pace has really gone over a cliff here. Now, whether that's something to do with damage, I'm not sure. But as we can see on screen now, Dill is in the pits. So they go onto the medium tyres, not the softs, interestingly. So they're going to have mediums that will be solid and reliable all the way to the end of this race. And, well, there we go then. That's a decision by the race leader to come on in. That's then given the race lead to Lixon. But of course, when Lixon comes into the pits, unless it's done under safety car, we're going to end up seeing them dropping back behind. Bambi sets a new fastest lap of the race of 1:30.2, and that then means they're just now 6 seconds off the back of Dill. So that's not been a particularly successful undercut for them. And now with Dill on the faster tyre, sure, they will lose a bit of time. Oh, look at this then. Onto the grass on the hangar straight then for Croker. And they get up the inside of Shrek's Jesus, pull back over to the racing line, and then take the optimum line through the corner as a result. F1 Ellie into the pits then. As you can see just up ahead, the Red Bull dives into the pit lane. And what set of tyres will this be for? I would imagine this might be for the softs. So let's wait and see on that one. And meanwhile, throughout the rest of the field, you can see then, in terms of the timing gaps, Rolfie very close to the back of Chicken Sucker at the moment. Shrek's Jesus very close to the back of Croker. And Lucas, the closest of anybody to anyone else on track, being basically on the gearbox of Yoshi Boy at the moment. So things very close between that part of the grid. And then Chicken Sucker pulls right to the inside and allows the Ferrari of Rolfie by. Whether that's because Rolfie just had that much more speed and Chicken Sucker thought that they'd be best served staying to the inside and just allowing them by, I don't know. But there we go. So that's then positions reverted between the Ferrari and the Alpha Tauri driver. Now then, oh dear, Yoshi Boy has gone round and is still pointing the wrong way. Now, we've seen other drivers come a cropper by driving the wrong way. Don't do it for too long there, Yoshi Boy. And they get the car spun round again and get set off once more. But they're going to have to be very careful because they've spun already. Ooh. Oh, and there you go. Close. That almost was another great big incident there between two cars. Now, the problem is that when you spin in this game, and there you go, F1 Ellie is on the soft tyres, so she will have an awful lot of pace underneath her now to be able to go after other cars and get some overtakes done as soon as those tyres are of course up to temperature. But just on the subject of temperature, and then talking about what Yoshi Boy did and what Ellie now needs to contend with, is that in this game, if you come out the pits, your tyres are going to be cold because the maximum temperature they're allowed as we warm to is 70 degrees. If you end up spinning because you overheated the tyres, then you need to be really, really gentle going through the next few corners, because otherwise they're just going to continue to be overheated and you'll continue to spin, which is what we saw happen to Yoshi Boy. So unfortunate for them, but as it is then, we've now got F1 Ellie on soft tyres versus then others in the field on hards and mediums. Yoshi Boy is having an absolute mare of a time. And for a moment there, I thought they were going to go down the old pit lane, the F2 pit lane, but they didn't. So they continue on then, and Ellie is actually losing time to Hoovy Gaming in front, which is a real surprise given the tyres that are being used. That being said, though, Hoovy is also on soft tyres, so maybe they are a recent stopper as well, and so that's why the times are going in the wrong way for F1 Ellie there. But as we continue to watch everybody go around. Let's have a look at the tyres once again then, so we can have a look at what's going on in terms of the strategies, in terms of the tyre age and that sort of thing as well. So let's see then. So at the front of your field is Dill currently with the Aston Martin and 2-lap old medium tyres. Then behind them is Bambi on the hards. Then we've got Brent on the hards as well, but 11 laps old. They pitted very early indeed, got a good overcut on a number of drivers as around the outside of the back marker goes Dill there. And then just a bit behind them is Lixon. Now Lixon only just pitted for the medium tyres a couple of laps ago. It's going to be a good, solid, reliable tyre to the end of the race now with the distance into this race they've gone before changing onto it. And they are now just about 2.2 seconds off the back of their teammate, with that time now coming down now that those tyres are in their optimum operating window. So expect to see Lixon jump ahead of their teammates, and oh dear, we put the camera on Chicken Sucker and then all of a sudden they spin round, and that's not what we want to see at all, but they've been able to get it going once again and pointing in the right direction. Hopefully for their sake they don't end up having another spin as they get set off once more. That's also now put them within striking distance of Croker, who has 2-lap younger tyres than them. So then, in terms of what we see up and down the field then, so Ellie currently the big outlier really, along with Hoovy Gaming, both of them on soft tyres and really far off the back of the field at the moment, it must be said. Unfortunately, Ellie is about 6.1, 6.4 sec. There's a huge amount of pace that's been lost by F1 Ellie actually. They're now down at the back of the field and losing over a tenth and a half per second really here to the cars in front. Now what on earth has happened? Oh dear, commentator curses indeed are flying. But we're seeing the two McLarens then pretty close to one another now. Lixon has been able to get that gap down from 2.2 seconds since we first started talking about it to now just 6 or 7 tenths of a second rather. So this is a very good recovery from them to get onto the back of their teammate. I think that Brent's going to be untroubled in P4 for the rest of this race, unless of course there's a safety car. But in terms of Lixon, well, what could they manage? Could they manage to overhaul a 18-second gap to get onto the back of Bambi up in front? Well, that's it's a possibility, but whether or not it ends up happening is something else entirely. Of course, remember the late great Murray Walker in commentary in Formula One? You know, catching a car is one thing, passing is another. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on as this race unfolds. We've got just about 7 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We're on lap 19 of 26. We head through Copse Corner, and the McLarens still very close to one another, about 4 tenths of a second gap, now just under 4 tenths as they head through Maggots and Beckett's, and through this section of the circuit you can see where those fresh medium tyres are giving a huge amount of pace and performance to Lixon there, because they didn't lose a huge amount of time as we saw other drivers do. And then you can see that flashing red light on the back of their teammate. That means they have less than 10% ERS available. That means then around the outside with the use of DRS and the overtake button, Brent VO loses the position to Lixon, and they are now up into P3, but it's not over yet. The McLaren teammates deciding, no, we're going to keep on fighting one another here, thank you very much. And then through Vale and then through Club Corner as well, it looks like it's going to be an opportunity to get side by side into turn 1, but no, not on this occasion for Brent. They've got to settle for second best, and now is there going to be an opportunity to repass here into Village? No, not this time. Instead they settle in behind and continue to follow their teammate around. There might be an opportunity here going on to the Wellington Straight, and we'll see that in just a few moments time, but not if you lose the traction like that. And Brent's opportunity fizzles away, much like their tyre grip. And then down the Wellington Straight we go then, and that's a fairly easy defence on the part of Lixon. They're now going to try and overcome that big gap they've got to Bambi in front of them, who is going to be able to set consistent times to the end of this race now, given that they are on the hard tyre. We now go to Chicken Sucker, and what can you tell us about their fight with Croker so far then, John?
Pretty easy on the deck, I would say.
Very unfortunate indeed, but there we are then. So Chicken Sucker gets a position after Croker croaks once more, and that's an unfortunate second of circumstances for them. They've got 8-lap-old hard tyres, so at least they can compete with Shrek's Jesus in front of them, who from this point onwards I'm either going to refer to as Shrek's or as Jesus, because it's quite a long, awkward name to say all at once, but there we go. So they are going to just continue to put in some good lap times here, try and get onto the back of the Haas in front of them, and if they can just catch up a little bit through this Maggots and Beckett section here, they'll end up getting themselves up into a good spot as far as being able to then maybe start to re-attack on the hangar straight, but I don't think it's going to happen for them. No, you can see there that Williams emblazoned rear wing, Sofino on the back, is not opening up, so they are not using the DRS. They weren't able to get within a second, headed through that detection point, and there we are then. So that's the pretty much the end of proceedings as far as an overtake of this lap is concerned for Croker. Now we see Victorious into the pits once again, and they go from 19 lap hard tyres. So I say once again, they probably haven't pitted at all in this race. If they're, oh no, they must have done. We're on lap 21. So yeah, they go from tyres they've been on for quite some time onto a new set of softs. And given they've got a gap of over 23 seconds back to Lucas, this could work out for them very well. They could come out here and really put in some fast hard laps, I should say, not fast laps. That's a completely different thing entirely. And there we go. Time penalty for Vic though for speeding in the pit lane. So Victorious having a not quite so victorious day so far, as it turns out, but hopefully these are just those early season blues, and we see them getting into a more competitive form as the season goes on. But on our screens at the moment, we see Croker versus Shreks, and this is a very close battle. In fact, the closest battle that we've got on circuit at the moment. So, Williams versus Haas, a battle we were very familiar with last year and parts of this year as well. And look at this then. Is it going to happen into Maggots and Beckett? Round the outside into Maggots? No, no. Croker backs out at the last possible moment there, but by getting alongside the driver that they are fighting there, that's Shreks, that's then put them off. That means then through Maggots and Beckett, they've definitely slowed up. And then you can see there, no ERS left at all in the Haas, and so up the inside with DRS with the overtake button is a fairly easy move then for Croker, who gets up the inside and will now try and band away like Bambi has done ahead of Lixon, and get themselves away from the threat of the car behind. Bit of a track extension through the final couple of corners there, but I'm sure if that's going to be looked at by anybody, it'll be looked at by stewards and not by me. So there we go. So through turn number one we go then. Great overtake by Croker there to be able to get that done on the hangar straight into Stowe Corner. And now, as we head through Village and then the loop, the gap is still under a second, so it might well be that we see some DRS in operation for the Haas driver here, but there's not really going to be opportunity yet. You can see there it comes up on their dashboard. So they do have DRS down this back straight at the moment, but the gap is still around 8 or 9 tenths of a second. So things are not looking particularly comfortable for them trying to get back onto terms with Croker. Well, hopefully, for Croker at least, they'll be able to now just power on away from the Haas behind them. But if not, then, well, that means that this fight could potentially crack on for a few more corners. So in terms of a fight that has gotten close, Victorious has come out of the pits, has set some good lap times and gotten onto the back now of Lucas with 1 lap old soft tyres versus 10 lap old hard tyres. So that's going to be a fairly easy move, I would think, between Victorious and Lucas there. And now as they head through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, things are looking pretty convincing as far as the Red Bull driver is concerned. They are getting closer and closer all the time. I'm not sure they're going to be close enough for a move though on this occasion. That being said though, the grip available on the soft tyre means they are getting much closer, much quicker than we would expect to see in any normal circumstance here. And then as we head through Stowe, they gain a huge amount of time in braking and then in the traction zone on the exit of the corner as well. So may not have happened last lap, but might well happen this lap. So then, through turn one we go then, and you can see there just how much more balanced the Red Bull is underneath that driver's right foot. With the extra tyre grip available to them, that mechanical grip serving them well, and then really defensive into the loop goes Lucas, and I think that's just going to compromise them. Lucky for them though that Victorious has had a bit of a snap of oversteer, headed out of loop and into Aintree and then onto the Wellington Straight. So that means then that whilst they do have the DRS, they are going to then have to just use it to get back onto terms with Lucas rather than trying to get a move done as they may well have wanted to do so. Headed down that hangar straight, of course then Brooklands, very easy to get the moves done in there if you're close enough, but on this occasion not so for Victorious. So they head now down into Copse Corner. They're going to follow closely throughout there, and whoa, big slides, big, massive slides on the Red Bull. as they go chasing after 2 points in this race. And now as they head through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, they are staying thereabouts, and then they go over the grass and the runoff area. No, 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 that's not what we want to see. And that means that they've lost time and momentum to the car in front. We go back now to F1 Ellie, who's at the bottom end of this field and chasing on after Hubert Kozlovsky. I'm just gonna say Hubert from this point onwards. There we go. They are fending off Ellie for the time being, but at this point, it looks like maybe the soft tyres, if they've not completely died off at this point underneath Ellie's right foot, then there could be an opportunity to get an overtake done. But through Maggots and Beckett, they've lost so much time that I think it's not really going to be on this lap. Might be something that could come along at the end of the final lap, or certainly onto lap 25, because of course at this point they are not on lap 25, they're on lap 24. In fact, they are very close to, if not having been lapped at this stage. I think I'm fairly certain that they have been lapped.
Yeah.
So there we are. That means then that this is effectively almost the final lap then for F1 Ellie and for a few more of these drivers towards the back end. They're going to be shown the blue flags at this point. Now, are they going to get out of the way for the McLaren of Lixon, who's going to be trying to get on to terms with Bambi, but it's just not been working out for them at all. That gap has actually increased rather than decreased throughout this race. So it's not what we want to see, as in terms of those on-track battles. We want to see drivers getting close to one another. But there we go. It's and look at that there. So Ellie has now gone from about 9/10 or so going across the line to now over 3 seconds now off the back of Hubert. So that's not what we want to see, and that's another thing we don't want to see, and that's Chicken Sucker. Whoa, going in a spin and then coming back onto the circuit in, I must say, a bit of an unsafe manner there. If I was a steward, that would be my thoughts on the matter. But again, I'm not a steward, so I'm just talking nonsense, and the actual officials can make their minds up on that one. But there we go then. Dill crosses the line to start the final lap of the Grand Prix, sets a fastest final sector just for good measure. And now, with almost a full battery of ERS, are they going to go for a fastest lap attempt on this final lap? I don't think so. And oh dear, that's then a Red Bull round. And I think that is victorious. They have dropped out of the points. No! So after all of that battling with Lucas, after getting the positions in, it then just means that they tumble out of the points on the very last lap of the Grand Prix after an unnecessary spin on their relatively fresh soft tyres. And then compound that with then the problems they're going to have with the time penalties and other bits and pieces. That's just going to mean they're going to fall down the order like a stone. So there we go. It's then it's then Chicken Sucker that we're on board with now then. So, of course, had that spin last lap that we saw, and things were not good for them, not good at all, but they're now closing in on the back of Shreks. And will there be a last final move into Stowe Corner? No, not this lap, although on the exit of Stowe, they've got huge overspeed, and now up the inside into Vale Chicane. Will they get the move done? It looks like they might well do. They really shut the door there on the Haas driver. That's some very aggressive racing and racecraft there from the AlphaTauri. They come across the line, but now coming down into the Vale Chicane to come round the last couple of corners then, after an absolutely storming first race of the season, it will be Dill who will come across the line and win the British Grand Prix, win round one of the CRC, and that is the best way they can start off their championship hunt. Bambi then comes across the line to be able to take second place, and they'll be joined in the not too distant future by Lixon to round out the podium. And McLaren then, the best performing team of anybody in this race, if they finish as they are right now, with third and fourth, netting them a good solid points haul, which will give them the lead, I would imagine, in the Constructors' Championship. So across the line comes Lixon, and then across the line next will be Brent. They're just following through one of the Red Bulls, so we'll find out which one it is in just a moment. That's Ellie. So Ellie crosses the line, has not served their penalty, and so therefore it picks up 5 seconds at the end of that race to add insult to injury for finishing last in this first round of the season. It was a promising opening stint from them, but I think just stayed out a bit too long on the mediums, went for a strategy that didn't really work, and we'll see them fighting back in the next few rounds, I'm sure. Last couple of battles on track then. Shreks has been overtaken by Chicken Sucker at some point around this final lap then, and that means then that coming down to the Vale chicane, it will be Chicken Sucker who will come across the line in 7th position, with Shreks rounding out the last of the finishers with P8 as they come across the line in just a moment's time. And there we go. That is your first round of the season, all done and dusted. Brilliant race. What did you think of that one then, John?
I think Dill had it in the box pretty much from the lap 1. He did wonderful, kept it cool through the whole race. No problem. He was fighting pretty good with Bambi too. So yeah, overall a good race over from Dill. Well-deserved win. And yeah, he is the only Aston Martin there, and he takes the first place. So that's a good race from him.
Absolutely, yeah. Very good first race from them. Definitely a candidate for driver of the day, I think it's fair to say. And yeah, very, very good effort from them as they spray the champagne at that first round of the season. We now, I'm afraid, have to go. There's not much more that we can say after this first round of the season, but as the season goes on, I'm sure we will start to expand our coverage, have more things to talk about, more things to show you, and hopefully with some more, well, less, I should say, technical issues, and therefore less filling with random stories and so on in the meantime. So, to round us out then, my name has been Daniel Gilligan. I've been joined by John Scott in the virtual commentary box and the virtual control room as our director today. Thank you very much for watching. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.